everyone, and welcome to your carrier update presented by PowerFleet. So the big question is, what's happening to the freight volumes in the United States of America in January, where they're going down versus December, there's no doubt. But how fast are they coming down? And we see here the outbound tender volume index compared to last year. Here in the pink here is last year's number, and we see that there's a bit of a turn up this time last year where we're not seeing this year, but we're still doing pretty well, about roughly 4% up year over year at this point in time. So where in the country are these volumes growing? So here behind me I have the outbound tender market share index on a tree map. And if anybody's been watching the FreightWaves Now videos over the last year or so, you'll know this is one of my favorite maps to look at in terms of growth trends. Like, how is the market changing year over year over time? So anything in red is showing a decreasing value year over year. Atlanta market, 9.2% down year over year. So it may be doing well in terms of last week or last month, but not necessarily in terms of year over year value. Harrisburg, Pennsylvania, a growth market. We saw those big, robust markets, robust growth, I should say, come out of the Northeast this Christmas and the holiday season. But and it's continued into January. So if you're a carrier and you're looking to see which market should I target right now in terms of year-over-year growth potential, et cetera, Harrisburg is looking good. Atlanta is looking not so good. Ontario, California, one of the biggest markets in the country right now, 15% down year over year. Now, we've talked about the preference for shippers to go into the East Coast versus the West Coast, and a lot of the volumes have shifted to the East Coast right now. And again, we've got the AB5 issues going on out there. They're still in debate. A lot of carriers have already made their adjustments to the West Coast activity based on a lot of these situations that have already fully developed. So Ontario is a declining market right now. Houston, Dallas, both up year over year. So we're looking good in some of these bigger markets. Of course, LA is up 3.8%, but the bigger of the two markets is Ontario, so pay attention to that. Columbus, not looking so great. Chicago, 9.7% down year over year, a huge hub in the United States for freight movement. So let's check out and see what's going on in the rest of the country today in terms of capacity. So the weighted rejection index, in color here, the blues indicate a tightening capacity, whereas the reds indicate a declining capacity. So it should be a loosening capacity, I should say. So here in the middle of the country around Kansas and Omaha, Nebraska, looking a little bit tighter today. Not a huge market though. Some of the bigger markets in the country right now, like we mentioned with Columbus, Atlanta, all the bigger markets out here are showing dark red. So that means that you need to be aggressive in these markets, especially if you've got trucks going into these areas today. Make sure that you are aggressive on your rate, maybe take not as much as you would normally take on the margin side. But here, up here in the Midwest, the upper Midwest is really a market that I wanted to focus on. Minneapolis has been a big point of contention over the last month or so in terms of tightening capacity. Some of the highest rates in the country have come out of Minnesota in the last little bit. So tender rejection rates are moving up. You know, after declining a little bit after the holiday, they are starting to show up. Now, reefer rejections here in green, really pulling the weight in this market over the last day or so. So if you are a reefer carrier in the Minneapolis market, you definitely need to charge for that. Anything coming out of that market today, especially on the spot side, you will have a lot more opportunity in that region. So how long will this continue? We don't know, but it is a colder time of year. Minneapolis is very subject to weather conditions and problems of that nature, so be safe when you are going in there. So thank you for tuning in today's Carrier Update.
The comprehensive logistics offerings from PowerFleet cover in-cab ELD, fleet management, trailer tracking, cargo monitoring, and tracking other assets such as chassis and intermodal containers. Power up your operations with PowerFleet.